when you do like high intensity, particularly high intensity cardio, like, like sprinting in full cycle or like running uphill on berries or even like Orange Theory, which is great. If it's so high intensity and it's like all you do, you're increasing, like it's increasing lots of cortisol, adrenaline, like all of those like negative hormones that we're already have too much of already.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mind Body Planet podcast. Today we are talking with JJ Jonathan Jordan, who is a personal trainer. He's one of I feel like I've known him forever. He's my boyfriend's personal trainer, who's basically a part of our family at this point because he just works with all of us. This episode, I learned a lot about fitness. So we're talking about what are the three pillars of fitness, which is movement, nutrition, and regeneration. What do those mean? How do you practice those? We're also covering a ton of common fitness myths that he has to debunk with his clients. If you believe any of these, then this is definitely an episode that is meant for you, because I believed some of these and it was very interesting to hear his take on them. So you should be sore and exhausted after every workout. Stretching or mobility is for old or broken people. Calorie counting is always bad. Low intensity or high intensity cardio is better. You can get by with crappy sleep and recovery. So those are just a few of the myths that we're going to go over together and really get his perspective on it as a trainer who's been doing this for years now, has multiple awards, multiple certifications, and all of this stuff. I know for me, I have a new perspective on how moving my body is actually, it doesn't have to be, high intensity cardio all the freaking time. If I want to just go on a walk after a very stressful day, that's totally fine. So I hope this provides value for you guys in the same way that it has provided so much value for me in my personal life. JJ is one of my favorite people in the world to talk to. So that's enough of me talking. Let's get into it. Hi, JJ. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so I am so excited to talk to you about all things fitness and debunking some common things you hear. But before we get into it today, let's start with this week's favorites. I have one this week.
I have a couple of favorites. You go first and I'll go after you.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so I am a fan of a public library, and I don't know why it took me so long to realize how cool they are. But I feel like when I was in school, like it was very common to like go to the school libraries and like study, do like classwork, read, whatever, because they were like a quiet spot. I was never really a library person in college, but now as I've gotten older, they're totally free. I can check out all the romance novels that my heart would ever want. And then it's really quiet there and you don't have to pay to be there. It's so cool. So I literally just came from my public library, which is like 10 minutes down the road from me.
Oh, I love that. I have two friends that are going to laugh because I always tease them because they go to the library and I'm like, ew, I read books. I love the library too, but I like never go. And I live in San Francisco, as you know, and the public library here is just amazingly beautiful. So I'm into that.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Yeah. San Francisco. I love San Francisco.
Well, my favorite thing, so a couple. Oh, okay. So I read books. I didn't get it from the library. But my favorite thing right now, you kind of asked me, like, are there any books that I'm reading right now? And usually as a trainer, when clients are like, oh my God, I read this book, it's usually more myths I have to debunk about like gobbledygook, like, how you need to eat it. You have to eat this certain crazy way, or, you need to do this like super crazy diet, or like everything is about a biohack and this and that. And normally I'm like, ugh, because it's really not that complicated. There is a really great book that's getting a lot of hype right now that one of my corporate clients actually like brought and delivered to me. She thought it was so important that I read it. It's called Outlive by Peter Attia. And really it's about like so much around fitness and wellness. And we'll get into a lot of this stuff when we get into the meat and potatoes, is about like, you have to look a certain way and, your body fat should be this, and you need to, like beach body this, and the aesthetics are fine, but this book is really about how to frame your life so that you can not only live a longer life, but a more like vital life, like vitality. And so he's like done all of this medical research as well as just like personal, life research around like about that. Like, how can you live a long, vital life so that, you have the luck and work of like living to be 80 or 90. How can you take care of your body as you age so that, you can like live the life you want to live? So it's really, really, really interesting and beautiful. with lots of good, helpful information in there. So I have to do this one for my husband. I have two favorite things. One is like my least favorite thing. I've been married for 1 year, but with my partner for 15 years. And maybe like 10 years ago, he went to a nutritionist to lose weight, but then we learned a lot of good habits, and he started making veggie bags every day. Like every Sunday, he makes veggie bags. Like that's what we call them. I don't know where I came from. And so almost every day for like 10 plus years, our rule is like you can put whatever veggies you want in it, and I eat one I don't like vegetables. Like I'm weird, like I'm a nutrition coach and I don't like vegetables, but I eat them because they're good for you. And I just like, when you're hungry, you just shove them in your mouth. And I was laughing because I meant to save mine, but so it kind of looks like this, but I ate all the good vegetables. I ate all the peppers and cucumbers and like yummy ones, and now I have to eat these later. And so all my clients joke, they're like, oh, you love vegetables? I'm like, no, I hate them, but I eat them every day. So veggie bags. If you're looking for like a really simple, easy way to like eat colors and to put nutrients in your body, but you're not interested in maybe some of the other things that we're going to talk about that are a little bit more complicated, the veggie bag works. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing. I think Matt learned that from you. And
Matt does that.
yeah.
So for people who don't know, like maybe we should disclose how we know each other. Like Chris has the most amazing boyfriend in the entire world. Like Matt is, and he's been my client for many, many years, and he's a stand-up amazing guy. So we're like family. So
yeah, JJ, yeah, your family for us, like his whole family. I love it. And yeah, Matt's pretty amazing. I'm very lucky. I'm ready to hop into the topic of the
let's do
day.
it.
Okay, cool. Let's do it. Okay, so well, you introduced how we knew each other, but please introduce yourself, what you do, anything that somebody should know coming into this conversation.
So my name's Jonathan Jordan. I go by JJ. I'm a personal trainer. I do a lot of things, but I've been a trainer for over 10 years. I'm also working and certified massage therapist, group fitness instructor. I have a blog like everybody else. I do corporate wellness. So I do a bunch of stuff. So really, I'm working wellness and behavior change. And I've worked for several big gyms, doing all in-person training for years. And then during COVID, I took my business private because all my clients went online. And I also, in the context of that, I do just let folks know, like I help people, get stronger. People usually come to me and say like, yeah, I wouldn't mind losing like 5 to 10 pounds, but really my clients, I love this, like want to feel a certain way. They want to feel strong. They want to have no pain. They're really into like Peter Attia and this like live longer, vital stuff. I work with people who want to like keep vital and strong, and like they either love movement, or I teach them to learn to love movement and to like make it a joyous, fun experience. So I'm not one of those like boot camp, like give me 1,000 burpees, you piece of crap. Like I'm not like that. Fitness is about freedom and fun and like how your body feels.
Awesome. I love that. I think that's so important. It's really how you feel before the aesthetics. The aesthetics really are a bonus to feeling better about yourself.
Yeah, they take care of themselves. If people are out there, like there's nothing wrong with wanting to use nutrition and exercise. I mean, I hope all clients like want to do it for like the good reasons, like we talked about, of like, living a long time and being healthy and supporting the body and not being in pain and doing the things you love, like, rock climbing or swimming or whatever. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to look a certain way, as long as it's like healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like there's nothing wrong with like layering in the aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we do a good job of that. So
yeah, I love it. Okay, so you're talking a lot about movement, which I know is one of the 3 pillars of your fitness mantra.
yeah,
So can you dive into it
yeah.
more?
It's great. And I wish I could take credit. I would be a bajillionaire if I could like trademark this. So movement, nutrition, regeneration, which I think is a little stiff. So like, but move, eat, rest. And so those are the 3 pillars, right? Like the classic example, I hear this a lot. I didn't write this, and I like, not that I think abs should be everyone's end goal, but it often is like, it's talked about a lot. And you hear a lot like abs, like argument, like abs are made in the gym. No, abs are made in the kitchen. No, abs are made in the bedroom. Well, the truth is we need all 3, right? And so I work like oftentimes, clients will have like one of those pillars, like movement, which is just exercise, but like like moving the body, right? Nutrition, like how we eat, and regeneration, like rest and recovery. Often clients will usually have like one of those pretty down pat, and they'll be suffering and struggling with like at least one or two. And you can get a little bit with just one. So if you're just like, oh my God, I suck at all those things, like focus on movement, then regeneration, and then nutrition. I personally think, right? But start anywhere you want. Like there's reasons to start with any of them. They are all ultimately very important. And clients that are able to like truly find wellness and health and happiness and the aesthetics that they want, and the the abilities that they want, eventually make some effort to fix all three of those things. Yeah, you can't do it without, like, the pillar just falls down without it. The recovery one, the rest one, is a little bit newer, like the last 10 years. And the more and more we learn, like, so much is linked to poor rest. Not just so like sleep, but also like just regeneration. So like all of the stuff, like sleep is the most important thing, but like actually getting true rest, regeneration of the brain, even the spirit, like, meditation, things like that, like all fall into that category. That's sort of the space that I live in. So that's MNR, movement, nutrition, regeneration. So if you're like too long didn't read version is if like eventually knowing that all three of those things are what is going to get you to your goal, whether your goal is to look good or just be healthy. And if you're struggling with all three, like pick one that you think you can make some headway on, and then just like start picking at it, right? But know that you're not going to get away without addressing all three in the long term.
I love that it's a balance. I think that's so important. I have a question for you when you talk about movement. Is stretching something that would be considered movement, or would that be more rest?
Both, actually, that's a really good question. I would put it in the movement category, but it has regenerative properties. So, like, my favorite example is like restorative yoga, is basically like stretching. Like the restorative yoga people, like, don't come at me. Like, I know it's more complicated than that. I love yoga. I went yesterday. It's great. But like, I call it a mobility program. Most people would say stretching. So, but like, the truth is we live in a very like chair dominant, device dominant world, right? Like, so, and that's just true. Even me, like, I'm a trainer. I used to work in the gym running around all the time, but then thanks to pandemic, right, I went to the computer, and I found like a year in a pandemic, my neck started to hurt. I couldn't do my like big boy overhead pressing exercises without hurting my neck. And I went to a physical therapist, and he was like, yeah, you're like this. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm like my clients? Like, so even, and though I'm standing, like I'm standing here, right? Like we know the detriment of sitting too much, right? Like, but like, I was like, I'm standing, but it still isn't moving. Right. And so like people are like, I don't want to stretch. Like, I'm like, that's why you call it a mobility program. And you tell them like, it's a strategic program, but it's like stretching, and they get with it. So yeah, big fan. I, I think so many people, if they would just spend, and people think they've got to do it for like an hour, or like, go to some like Bikram yoga class. I'm like, no, like literally, like I have a couple of clients that I'm like, can you do 2 minutes a day of some mobility work to like get like some spinal movement, right? So many of us are like this. So like, can you spend 2 minutes on a foam roller just rolling up and down your spine in the morning and at night as a place to start? And they start to feel better, right? Like neck starts to hurt less, lower back starts to hurt less. So mobility is really about like almost like injury prevention at this point, and adding balance to our very imbalanced bodies. Back in the day, we didn't know where our food was going to be coming from, right? And we had to conserve energy because we were out like, picking up rocks and, beating up, saber-tooth tigers and all that. Like, we were very active. We were burning a lot of calories. And so, scientists think that our bodies have adopted ways to be very conservative with energy. So when we like sit like this because we have bad posture, it's like natural, right? Like they say, we're supposed to engage our core and chest up and all this stuff, but that burns calories. It's natural why we are this way, but we have to fight that our natural instincts, and we have to like actively learn new behaviors because it's not natural for us to do it. I am a big fan of stretching. A lot of my clients come to me saying like they think that stretching or a mobility program or even like yoga is for old people, or worse, that it's for broken people.
No.
They'll say like that idea of like stretching isn't necessary. It is. Everyone who has a cell phone needs to do some stretches every day, or a laptop or an iPad or Netflix or a chair. So like everyone has to do it. Some younger people just haven't like injured themselves yet, or the pain hasn't presented itself, but it's coming, right? It's like so many people tell me like, oh, I threw my back out because I bent over and picked up a pencil, or a lot of like, or I was, moving and I picked up a box weird. That's not what broke your back. It was the years of sitting, the years of not stretching, the years of not doing mobility beforehand that did it. That was just the match on the fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like I am a big fan of a mobility program. Like some of my clients, that's all they do in a day, right? Like when they get started, they're like that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the price of being human these days. It's just the price of being human. So when clients think that it's a waste of time, that's the myth I'm trying to dispel. It is not a waste of time. And that the fact that they have to do it means they're inherently broken or their body sucks. No, I don't like that. That's not true. That is myth number one, that stretching or mobility is for old and broken people. Is for everybody, even me.
Yeah, I think that's so valuable. I need to take notes because I'm a content creator, right? So I stare at my computer, I'm on my phone editing videos, and like this week, my neck and like my upper shoulders almost have been killing me, like just because I guess I've been editing so much.
It's crazy. Over the years, like people my age, like we're all our generations are like more from sitting. So our backs, we have back and hip problems first.
Okay.
But your generation is all neck and shoulders because of this.
Yeah.
Right. And then, so like, it's just what I see. It's just, and then your hip and back problems come later, I guess. But
So all this to say, stretch, people.
stretch. We got to stretch. And if you don't like stretching, call it a mobility program. If you like, and I have tons of like ideas on my website. It's jj-fit.com. I put tons of like free, like it's all free.
I love that. Okay, I want to move into our next myth, which is that you should be sore and exhausted after every workout.
This, and I shouldn't like pick on anybody in particular because they didn't do it. They just capitalize on it. But we live in a very Soul Cycle, Barry's boot camp kind of world. And those are great. I've gone, I have friends who teach those places. It's great. But there's multiple types of working out, right? We were talking about stretching, which you will get your heart rate up and sweat a little bit, but it's like pretty low intensity, right? And then there's like, I'm on the elliptical, or like I'm jogging. That's like medium intensity, or even going for like a brisk walk, right? Medium. And then there's like HIIT. Everyone kind of, people of high intensity interval training are HIIT, like super high, right? And so in the 80s, like when Jane Fonda and Suzanne Summers, you don't even know who they are, was like teaching like aerobics. It was all like, just like moderate, low intensity and moderate intensity, like, low impact kind of fun stuff. And that's what like aerobics was born. Aerobics means like the, oxygen, right? Like, so that's where that kind of started. And then there was some research around like higher intensity, and then like it's a protocol where you do like extremely high intensity for like a short bout of time. It's named after a scientist. I can't, and much of the high intensity interval work is behind this research, right? So for a while, within like the last 5 to 10 years, like everyone was like, oh no, low intensity is garbage. Like that's dumb. It's all about high intensity, far more efficient. You only have to do like 10 minutes of it. And there's some truth to that. Largely we've found that the benefits of HIIT are true, but they've been like largely overstated. And they're not that much more than lower intensity. But about, you used to say anywhere from like 20 to 30% more. You burn more calories, right? Now it's more like 5 to 10. The trick is the debt you put your body in. So when you do high intensity work, right, you spike a lot of the same like reactions in your body as stress. Exercise is stress. It's intentionally designed stress, right? And so when you do like high intensity, particularly high intensity cardio, like, you know, like sprinting in Soul Cycle or like running uphill on berries or even like Orange Theory, which is great. If it's so high intensity and it's like all you do, you're increasing, like it's increasing lots of cortisol, adrenaline, like all of those like negative hormones that we're already have too much of already. So if you're like super duper stressed at work, you're super duper stressed at life, you're having some COVID PTSD like so many people are having, your job is like driving you nuts, you're sleeping like garbage because that pillar sucks, and then your exercise is doing more things that are super stressful, you're actually having a negative impact on your body. So many of the people that I work with, I'm like, stop, like I hate to be like, stop doing so much high intensity, go for a walk. And they're like, go for a walk? That sucks. No, you're outside, you're getting vitamin D, you know, your eyes are getting healthy being outside, your stress is reducing, right? You're fully oxygenating the body, you're stimulating your rest and digest, you know, central nervous system versus your fight or flight, right? If you're like in danger of adrenal fatigue, you really shouldn't be doing like crazy sprints right now. And so sometimes you kind of have to do an intervention to be like, I only want you to do like low intensity stuff for a while. Like, let's reset that, you know? And then, you know, if you do lower intensity, you don't need as much sleep to recover. So if you get garbage sleep, right, you should do lower intensity work for now. I have some clients who like love being sore. And like, if they're not sore after every workout, they think they didn't work hard enough. And I'm like, that's not what a program is. You should be sore like the first 1 or 2 or 3 times you do a movement. Like, say you've like never done like resistance training, like squats. So you do like squats, right? You hold a heavy dumbbell. Your legs are going to be sore. Like, you might be like really sore the first couple of times you do it. But then after that, if you consistently strength train, you know, you're not going to be crazy sore. You shouldn't be crazy sore.
So you do not need to be sore to still see results.
Not after every workout, right? Like, you know, I talk about like working a program. Like that's what I do. Like I create a program for clients. We work it for several weeks or even several months, right? When you first introduce it, you're going to be sore. Like if you've like not done like, you know, like this is a really lat pull down or like a pull up, and I have you do it for the first time, you're going to be sore. This is one I get in trouble with. I love this. A lot of my female clients like want to do a body weight pull up for like often for the first time. And so we like get them super strong and then we do it. And then, you know, the first time they do like heavy pulling like this, I get yelled at. They're like, JJ, I can't wash my hair. Like I can't raise my hands. But it's never that way after the initial, like, you know, like launch, right? So if you're like super duper sore after every workout, it means your workout is not very strategic and it's too random, right? You're just like hopping from like random thing to random thing, and you're not repeating enough, or there might actually be something wrong, right? Like, you know, you might like have a nutrition or a hydration deficiency or something. Right. So if you're sore after every workout, that's a problem. Soreness is not the definitive measure of how hard you worked. It's just whether or not you did a brand new movement or something you've not done before. That's what makes you sore. Some workouts will just make you feel good, and that doesn't mean you didn't do the right thing. I think that's the point to make. Like, you know, stop chasing pain.
Yeah, that's a great perspective, because it makes me think like when I was training for the 10K for the San Francisco Marathon, my first run the next day was pretty, I hadn't ran in several months, but then following that first run, I was never really sore again after running. And that was from 1 mile. The next day I was like, wow, like I'm surprised. It like kind of hurts to walk because I'm so sore. And then I ran 5 miles and then I was like, I'm not even sore the next day. So
yeah, you didn't get sore again because you kept doing the thing. You kept training, right? So I'm talking about like if you take a break for a couple of weeks and then go back, like even if you go back to the same thing, you will be sore again. But if you're like consistently on a weekly basis doing a sound strategic weightlifting or cardio program, and you're consistent and you're not like starting and stopping and starting and stopping and adding too much random variety, you should not be sore after every workout. So those caveats are true.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so those are some that we've talked about in the movement category that we've kind of talked about and you've debunked. You have a bullet point that we talked about previous to recording that falls under the nutrition, I would say, pillar, that calorie counting is always bad. That's our myth.
Yeah, so oftentimes clients, want to lose some body fat, right? That's a common goal.
Mhm.
And I will say this, like, for the most part, exercise certainly burns calories. Cardio burns calories. Weightlifting actually doesn't burn that many calories, believe it or not. Most people who want to lose weight should prioritize nutrition first. That is your number one goal. That's not to say you shouldn't move. Every human should eat well, do cardio, all three, low intensity, high intensity, medium, should lift weights, but like, if you're like, okay, I can only focus on one thing and I need to lose body fat for my health and my sanity, cool. You should tackle that through nutrition. For the most part, it really is pretty simple. It really is pretty simple. In order to lose body fat, we need to maintain a caloric deficit. For most people, that is the truth. In my experience, both personally and nutrition coaching hundreds of people over the years, if someone just measured the amount of food they were burning using like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, or I use a Whoop, but whatever, it just estimates how many calories you're burning through your being alive and moving. And then you use like a tool like MyFitnessPal to food journal and track how many calories you eat. If you can make the difference between those two things, how many calories you burn and how many calories you eat, to be 300 to 500 lower, meaning you burn 300 to 500 lower, in general, you will slowly and safely, without a ton of fuss, lose weight over time. Now, that's just in a perfect world. That rarely happens because of so many different reasons. Like, food is very triggering for a lot of people. There could, like, some small people have like some deficiencies like Crohn's disease or hyperthyroidism where it isn't that simple, or it is more complex, or God forbid, like anorexia or bulimia. So humans eating is a very complex thing, but in general, like, body composition and weight management does simply come down to, for the large majority of people who don't have any of those larger, like, hormonal, thyroid, eating disorder issues, if you just have a 300 to 500 calorie a day deficit, you can have room for wine or chocolate cake or whatever you want. You can have some treats in there too. It's like balancing a checkbook. But there's just so much out there now, and there's so much stigma around being overweight and eating and how it should be, you just lack self-control. And that largely is bullshit too, because I mean, that's known. And, when we crave like highly processed, sugary, fat, like high calorie foods, it's so survival. Like, it's just how we're raised. It's just part of, caveman DNA, right? Like, sugar, millennium ago, like, was gold. It was great. Like, if you found sugar, like, eat that shit, because like that'll keep us alive. And so it still generates those cravings, right?
Mhm.
And like, there's lots of, there's lots of reasons why people struggle to eat at a 300 to 500 calorie a day deficit, because of cravings for food, emotional needs and emotional eating, triggers, like all of the things.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying it's simple and easy and fun to achieve that. It's very, very hard. And a lot of people fail and struggle with it for a long time. And so I'm, all about body positivity, love yourself where you are, and do what you want to do for yourself. But if there are people out there, like, who are struggling and want to lose weight for like the good, right reasons. So all that said, like, I think there's some backlash against calorie counting, boo. Like, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And in truth, when we do it, I have found, and they're like, so, okay, if you don't count calories, what do you do? Like, you can do more rules-based eating, right? Intermittent fasting is one of them. I don't do that. Like, oh my God, not eat for hours. Oh, that doesn't work for me, right? Like, I like breakfast. But it's fine. Like that, you can find other rules-based things. I just, you know, I find calorie counting for me, for my husband, for a lot of my clients, when you do it well, it works really, really well. It's the fastest way. I hear this a lot, like, don't focus on calorie counting, just do more mindful eating. Like, listen to your body's hunger cues, drink water. There's lots of good advice, right? I'm not saying like this is better than anything else, but this is the point that I wanted to make. 100% of my clients that actually like are like, okay, and they log their food using my fitness pal or just a pen and paper. I have them do it for 3 days. It's like the simplest shit. They do my job for me. They do it, and then they come down and we bring it to them, and then they print it out. I'm like, okay. And they just say, like, what did you learn? And people tell me the coolest stuff. They're like, I had no idea what I was eating. I thought I ate a certain way, and it turns out I eat a different way. Really, what I love is like, people are like, people ask me, like, is avocado good or bad? I'm like, there are no good or bad foods. But like, even a lot of very, very healthy, nutritious foods are extremely high in calories. So if you're trying to lose weight and you're eating like 3 avocados a day, though avocados are very healthy, they're full of amazing, great fats. They're good for your hair. They make your nails strong. They're green. They come from the earth. Like, awesome. But that's like 1,500 calories. Like, you're going to have excess body fat that you might not want. And so that's like, those are the things. If you track your food, like, people come to me and they're like, oh, I didn't know I was eating 3 avocados a day. I'm just not going to eat 3 avocados a day. And like, it could be that simple. And so whether or not it's a long-term strategy for you or something you want to do long-term, I do believe in mindful eating, but you can't be mindful of what you're not looking at.
Yeah.
So I look at tracking your food as not as a way to be restrictive, but as a way to just take inventory of and to know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You won't get anywhere if you don't know the baseline.
Yeah.
That's what that's about. So
yeah, you don't know what you don't know. And it sounds like it's almost a mindset shift because you have to come from, I think the reason why calorie counting gets a bad rep is because you have people who think it comes from a place of overly restricting what you're allowing into your body. But if you can kind of shift that narrative and think, well, this actually gives me freedom because if I know what I'm eating for breakfast every day allows me to have my sweet treat at night or my glass of wine, then that's a totally different perspective. But I think a lot of people get wrapped up into like it's a very strict no foods versus yes foods, and that's where calorie counting can be questionable. Did I get that right? Did I
yeah,
recap that?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And my husband like discovered this years ago. Like, he loves these specific cookies, and he loves to have these cookies every night. We're a big dessert, and he wanted to lose weight, so we went to nutritionist. Nutritionist says track your food, and he's like, I love tracking my food. It means it just makes sure that I have room for all the things I love the most.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to give up his raspberry cookies. Like,
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Okay. Another one of the myths that I have written down here is that low intensity or high intensity cardio is better. Now, we kind of touched on this a little bit.
Yeah, we did when we got into like exactly when like getting burnout with every workout.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I would say this: if you're a super duper high stress, high cortisol, under recovered, poor sleep person, you should really prioritize lower intensity for now. If you're not one of those people, if you're just like generally, gym population, strong and fit, and no, you should do both. In general, the reason that high intensity interval training is so popular is because you can burn a lot of calories in a shorter period of time. It just puts your body in a bigger debt. So if you're already in a sleep and recovery debt, it's not going to work. The reason lower intensity cardio people are like, is because it's not super duper exciting, right? It's not like running uphill, and they don't feel like they're doing anything. But if you went for like a 30 to 60-minute walk, it's largely very, very, very beneficial for you in so many ways. And you will ultimately burn the same amount of calories as, say, doing like, a 20-minute HIIT interval. So it's just, it's very appealing because it's extremely efficient and people like to kind of get the shit kicked out of them. So I encourage people to do both. Both are important, right? Like, HIIT is kind of cool. Because it's like a little bit of like high school science class, but one of the things that high intensity interval training does do to a healthy person is improves the health of your mitochondria.
Oh,
Remember
the
that?
powerhouse of a cell.
Oh yeah, the powerhouse of the cell, right? Like you can all still draw it. And I'm like, what? Who cares about your mitochondria? But it's kind of cool. I get asked all the time in like media for like Live Strong and like US Mobile Report. Like people are like, walking's bullshit. That's stupid. And it isn't. It does burn calories. It's very good for you. It stimulates your rest and digest. You know, you're out in the sun, you're breathing, de-stress. It's like it's very good for you, right? Some people are just resistant to it because they're used to that idea of like it's got to kick the shit out of you to be good for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's restorative. It's restorative exercise.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
So it's very good for you. Yes.
I love it. I love it. Okay, we have one more myth, and that is that you can get by with crappy sleep and recovery.
Yeah, you know, most of my clients, like, you know, wherever they start, they usually end up jamming on exercise. Like that's the first. They love it. Like they're like, oh, I feel so strong. This is cool. I like exercise. And then they're like, man, I don't really want to make any nutritional changes. And that gets them so far. And then they start making some nutritional changes. And then they get cocky. They want like big goals. They want to get abs or, you know, like whatever. And then I'm like, all right, we got to start looking at that sleep. You know, the reason like 8 hours of sleep is like generally what we need. And people are like, no, I can get by on 6. Okay, the truth is there's like this bell curve. Remember that? Like bell curve,
Yeah.
right? And 8 is just where most people fall. Most people that are like with normal activity need about 8 hours of sleep, right? To be fully functioning.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people that fall on the shorter end that can get by on 7, even 6, but more like 7, right? And then some people get real screwed and they need like 9 or more, right? Like those outliers. But most people, for this simplicity, we do need 8. And all of the heebie-jeebie scary scaries about what happens if you're chronically underslept by like getting sub what your body needs is super duper scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like disease, brain dysfunction, fog, like it's fucking scary and physiological as well. Like I know people who don't get good sleep often feel bloated. They often feel puffy. They hold on to body fat. Like their body is just not recovering. It will not perform. And so like lawyers are the worst. I train a lot of lawyers and they're like, I can't get 8 hours of sleep. I'm like, well, then you're going to have to like get serious about your ability to live a long time and to live well and to look the way you want to look and to feel the way you want to feel.
Yeah.
And like when folks like finally start making some changes, whether they're not sleeping because, you know, they're not giving themselves a sleep opportunity, right? Because they're like, you know, Netflixing and Instagramming and at, you know, 11 when they should be going to bed. That's one thing. Or like me, I have terrible, like I've had anxiety for a while. And so like my brain loves to wake up at 1 a.m. and doesn't want to go back to sleep. Like I went to a doctor and the doctor was like, you need to do our sleep program. And I'm like, oh, what is that? Just give me some pills. And they're like, oh no, you got to like go to these workshops and learn how to do box breathing and meditation and sleep hygiene. I'm like, oh, I got to do work around sleep. Like, oh, my fucking brain is off. Like, why is my brain trying to kill me? And I'm like, I don't know, but it is. Right. Mm-hmm. And so like, whether you struggle from sleep because of like prioritizing it yourself and making smart choices, or you have like anxiety or like sleep issues, like do the work, talk to a doctor, like talk to a sleep expert, you know, just hunker down and do it. Cause like once you actually like, it's so incredible. Like once, if you're someone who gets bad sleep and then once you finally figure it out, it took me years, but like you start stacking together multiple days of really good sleep, like nothing can touch you. You're just like, I can solve any problem. But like a couple of days of shit sleep and like everything feels like such a big, monumental, awful deal.
Yeah.
So
it's fun for me when you talk about this stuff because I can relate to everything that you're saying. Like for sleep, if I don't get 8 hours of sleep, if I'm under the 8-hour mark, I am just, you don't want to be around me the next day. Like I can't do it. I have to have my 8 hours of sleep. So I can't imagine if I had multiple days where I couldn't hit 8 hours, how that would affect just my day-to-day life, my function to be able to think properly.
It's awful. It's awful. And so many people think like, oh, I'm too important to sleep. Huge executives like, you know, CEO of Microsoft, Jeff Bezos, like all of these like big, like very important people, they're like, oh no, I prioritize sleep. My brain is too valuable. I need it to do my job. And so that idea, it's like a myth. It's like so toxic. Like, I'm so important. My job is so hard. I have to stay up and not sleep. And I'm like, you're not working efficiently. Like the data will show if you like give your brain proper sleep, you'll be able to work so much faster and better. And so many executives that like people like idolize and, wish they had the bank accounts of have gotten this memo. So whether or not you agree with a lot of their, corporate stuff, like Jeff Bezos is one, I was like, that guy's getting good sleep. That guy sucks. So
I love it. Well, JJ, thank you so much for going through all of these common misconceptions that your clients have brought to you
of course,
and sharing that information with everyone. It's been so valuable. For anybody listening
absolutely.
that would like to find you, can you please share? And it's also your space to plug anything else that you want to talk about.
Sure. Yeah, my website is a great resource. And you can contact me off of that if you have questions. I love questions. I you know I usually can answer them. I've been blogging now for like 8 or 9 years, so I usually have a link to everything. So my website is JJ, like my name, just JJ hyphen fit, like fitness.com. So JJ-fit.com. And yeah, if you need me, just find me there. My cell phone's up there. I'm probably a dum dum, and it's probably why I get so much spam and stuff. But I'm pretty good at email too, so you can find it there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Anything else you want to share?
Of course. No, that'll do it. It's Friday. Let's go take naps. I'm gonna go take a nap, and that's not even a
Yes.
lie. That's
I
great.
love it. Naps, hey, get your sleep.
Yes. All right, Chris. Well, thanks for having me on, and I will see you soon.
Yeah, I will see you soon. Okay, we have made it to good climate news. Today's article is titled Billie Eilish Partners with Reverb to Plot Solar Powered Headlining Set at Lollapalooza. So, Lollapalooza was a few weeks ago now at this point, but I do want to point out that it is absolutely incredible to be seeing huge, mega famous stars be able to produce and perform live sets using solar power to back it up. And I don't think it was fully solar powered, but at least partially. And that's better than nothing. It's a cool article. It talks a lot about Billie Eilish and just how cool it is to see this up and coming in the world. As always, I will link that in the show notes for everybody to check out below. And that's all for the podcast. If you made it this far, thank you. If you'd like to follow the podcast, you can follow us at Mind Body Planet Podcast. You can follow me, Crystal and Geyer, at Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You can also, please, please, please leave a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It really, really helps us out over here, helps us get discovered by new people. And if you want to be a part of our newsletter, we have one of those too. It goes out on the first of month. So it's just, quick ones. We won't bother you too much in your inbox, just once a month. And we talk about good climate news, and we talk about health and wellness and just self-love, how you can better be there for yourself and just show up. So love you guys. That's all we have for this week. See you next week. Bye.